Hello and welcome. It's stage 5 of the Tour of Denmark, the penultimate run for the bike riders in this absolutely beautiful bike race in the Nordic region. We're in Denmark's Riviera region, in the island of Zealand, Helsingør to be precise, and we've already had a bike race today. This is a double day for the bike racers as they've had stage 4 this morning, 116.5 kilometers, with Lars Ittingbæk, the local hero, being presented to the crowd as he wears the yellow jersey once more. The man from Lotto Soudal, all smiles ahead of this morning's potential banana skin of a stage, 116.4 kilometers, as I say, and a bit of a finishing circuit at the back end. Jakob Fuglsang displaying the scars of victory, of the battles that he's been involved in, I should say. He's been on the road, unceremoniously dumped on the tarmac yesterday afternoon, managed to get back up and running, but it's been a tough day for Fuglsang, and I can tell you that he's eventually decided to abandon the Tour of Denmark, 3 times a winner. He's got Thwaites in the early breakaway move, the man from Bora Argon and Lancashire. Pushing hard out front, and plenty of riders showing interest in getting into the early breakaway as the opportunities start to run out for the breakaway specialist. Just one more stage after this evening's time trial, which we'll be bringing you live pictures of very shortly. A little bit of movement in the mountains competition, nothing terribly significant, and up front in the late breakaway, riders hoping to try and hang on ahead of the main bunch controlled by Lotto Soudal, as you might expect, as they try to preserve this lead of, well, it's just 3 seconds for Lars Ittingbæk over Marco Marcato, 12 seconds back to Chris Juul Jensen from Tinkoff Saxo. Michael Valgren Andersen managing to get in the break earlier on today. An interesting move for him, losing out yesterday. Reigning champion, won't be defending his title, but he's got 2 teammates with fantastic opportunity of taking overall glory. Chris Juul Jensen, the aforementioned, sitting 3rd overall, and Matti Breschel, who's been on stunning form this week with a wonderful stage success yesterday into Vejle. 185 kilometers of tough racing in that finishing circuit up the wall. That was testing. Pretty challenging finishing circuit in this morning's stage as well. Mads Mortensen from Team Cult Energy. He's been on the attack all week, really out to make a name for himself, and he's doing that once more. A rather more sedate pace through the finish line first time around for Jakob Fuglsang, indicating that the white flag was coming up for him. 3 times the winner of this race, won't be repeating this year. And the bunch charging along behind, handing down the breakaway, and it was Matti Breschel, that man, taking a 2nd successive stage victory, just about pipping Edvald Boasson Hagen on the line. And a real strongman's finish, wasn't it? And would you believe that's his 9th stage win? Clearly the most successful man in terms of one-day success in the history of the Tour of Denmark. We are, as I say, in Helsingør for the penultimate stage of the Tour of Denmark 2015. It's a short time trial for the riders, potential opportunity for some riders to move on GC. 13.6 kilometers in total. 14.1 according to that, with 13.6 according to the road book. Suffice it to say, it's not terribly long. It's not terribly hilly either. A few little drags, but they don't get above 25 meters. So it's relatively flat for the riders. Here's a little look at the course as the riders are out there. It's along the coast. Out and back time trial, very traditional. Hairpin at the end and back for a little bit of technical stuff at the back end, but it's not terribly technical by the standards of modern time trials. And some opportunities, as I say, for the riders to make a name for themselves. Wanty Group Gobert, well, they have plenty to chase for in the remaining 2 stages. Marco Marcato has a date with glory, potentially this evening, because he's sitting 2nd overall, just that 3 seconds back from Lars Ittingbæk. And Lars Bak has been, well, on the podium the last 2 years in succession in the Tour of Denmark. It's a race he's yet to win. And got a great TT pedigree as well, has Lars Bak, so I think he has an excellent chance of extending his advantage. Marco Mercado, a little less storied in terms of his TT ability. Some riders using this as just an opportunity to get finished and get through. Looks like Jure Sagan, the less well-known of the Sagan brothers. Tinkoff Saxo, who's just getting through this time trial. He's got work to do tomorrow, perhaps potentially to defend a leader's yellow jersey, or will Lars Ittingbach hang on to that through to the final stage and beyond? That remains to be seen. Alongside me is a man who knows this time trial well, knows this race well, and knows just what it takes to produce a big performance over 13 and a bit kilometers on a flat road. It's Magnus Backstedt. It's top time trialer in his day. Man, you would really have enjoyed this.
Yeah, this is right up my street. Potentially a bit on the short side for me, but no, I did like every time I got to sit on my TT bike, it was a good day, and you know, it's certainly something that I still enjoy as much the technical and sort of materialistic side of things as much as the effort that goes into to racing them. I think we've got an interesting battle on our hands today with, like you said, Lars Bak, a three-time former Danish champion in time trialing, up against the current Danish time trial champion, Jules Jensen. So, you know, it should be a very, very hard-fought battle, that one, and there's only 12 seconds between them. So I think we're in for a treat here.
Yeah, certainly, because Lars Bak hasn't done a whole lot in individual time trials recently, but that hasn't been his focus. But we know he can do it when he needs to, and you can be sure he's going to be motivated today. Yeah,
I mean, it would mean so much for him to actually win this race overall, and no doubt he's going to give it everything that he's got. And he's one of these guys that tends to spend a lot of time on the front of the peloton, and you know, effectively time trialing every day of the year, more or less, in the capacity of helping out his team and his teammates. But it's a different scenario when you're getting on a TT bike, and certainly when you're doing such a short effort as this that we've got here today. In the middle of a stage race, it's very difficult to get it right. It comes down to warm up, warm down from this morning's road stage. Actually, what you eat in between the road stage and the time trial is going to have to play into effect of how well you're going to go on the time trial itself. There's so many outside factors that you can't really sort of control and sort of take into account as well. There's the ferry coming in from Sweden.
Yeah, bringing you home, bringing you away, bringing you on your holidays. Yeah, it's an important ferry port. We're in Helsingør. And that was a little side of the famous castle as well that inspired Hamlet. I guess William Shakespeare must have come here on his holidays many moons ago. And I'm sure we'll get another sight of that Kronborg castle again before the end of today's broadcast. Let's have a look at Brian van Godem. He's been up in the mountains competition. He's sitting second, joint second in that, but 10 points off the lead. It's going to be a bit of an ask for him to unseat Patrick Clausen from that jersey. But Brian van Godem's been in the breakaways this week and making a bit of a name for himself. The team Rompot rider, Mads Mortensen, prepares to make his appearance off the start ramp. Martin Mortensen has been, well, he was on the attack this morning, and pretty much every opportunity he has got to get to the front of the bunch, he has decided to depart the front of the bunch. Hasn't managed to stick yet, but he'll give it absolutely everything this evening and again tomorrow. Tomorrow is, well, it's a testing. It's another circuit finish with a climb on each of those circuits. It's potentially a difficult stage for the riders, and it could be a difficult one to defend a lead on if it's a narrow one.
Well, it's an interesting lap that tomorrow, and it's one where it's all the years that I've done the Tour of Denmark has ended up in a bunch sprint, but it has been a hardly fought bunch sprint where, you know, there's been a breakaway that's just been caught, and there's been attacks on the last lap, and effectively the leader in for to the final corner is something quite hairy as well, where there's really a big battle going on, and yeah, I think I've lost at least a couple of lives in that final corner on through the years, but certainly a very interesting stage.
So riders working their way through their time trials. We're getting down, working our way up the GC order. Riders riding in reverse order of general classification. Of course, best information we have. That's Dan Craven, of course, the man from Namibia, that is. Some natty sunglasses to go with that interesting facial hair from Dan Craven. Casper Askren, Cult Energy, is through and home, 16 minutes and 38 seconds. And well, information is tough to come by at the moment. It's a bit of a sketchy little 180 turn, isn't it? At that moment, there's been a bit of rain, and the riders have to tiptoe through that because it's pretty dry everywhere else on the course. They just have to be mindful of that, of those difficulties. As I say, Casper Askren from Team Cult Energy, currently in the hot seat, 16 minutes and 38 seconds. And he's got teammates out on the course. That's Mads Mortensen driving hard for the line in Helsingør. And we'll bring you the rest of this time trial after these. The camera's focusing on Mads Mortensen of Team Cult Energy, the local hero. Been on the attack all week. Now he's racing solo along with everyone else. He's in the time trial, the penultimate stage of the Tour of Denmark. Stage 5, 13.6 kilometers in total. There's been a little bit of rain in Helsingør, but most of that has burnt off the racing surface, and the riders are into their pain and suffering on what is a fundamentally flat time trial. A little bit up and down, but nothing worth the mention. And Mads Mortensen racing towards the turn. It's an out and back time trial along the coast. Very little wind today, not much more than about, 6-7 kilometers an hour. Top Sport Vlaanderen been on the attack all week as well, and they are pushing for glory in the Stage 5 penultimate time trial with Stijn Stales is not going to trouble the time of Casper Askren, Team Cult Energy. 16 minutes and 38 seconds, that's the benchmark time in the Stage 5 penultimate time trial in the Tour of Denmark. We're in Helsingør. Elsinore, as it is known in English-speaking part of the world.
Helsingør.
Helsingør, okay. Definitely not going to challenge that one. Helsingør. And yes, the inspiration for William Shakespeare's Hamlet, that the Kronborg Castle, very much an important tourism feature around this neck of the woods. And they have a big job to do, don't they? Lotto Soudal, Frederic Frisson of Belgium will be thinking as much about his own effort here as indeed the effort of Lars Bak coming at the back end of the order. Last man off is the overall race leader. Lars Bak defending that advantage as a narrow one, just 3 seconds ahead of Marco Marcato. Chris Juul Jensen will be third from last. He's 12 seconds behind. Matti Breschel coming off a double. What can he do over 13.6 kilometers? He's just 33 seconds down on general classification. There or thereabouts. Nip and tuck, and why not? I'm sure he'll give it a throw of the dice to see can he move up the order. Rasmus Guldhammer, another Dane in the top 6. He's sitting 38 seconds back. And Alexander Kamp, 40 seconds in arrears for the Colaquick squad. And Kamp wearing the Young Riders jersey as well. He's 55 seconds ahead of Magnus Cort Nielsen, so we'll see him in a plain white skin suit. The other jerseys, obviously, the GC yellow jersey being worn by Lars Bak. The Blue Points jersey, well, that's going the way of Matti Breschel at the moment. No surprise after 2 stage wins and a 4th place. And Mountains jersey is worn by Patrick Clausen of Trefor Blue Water. And as I said, Alexander Kamp looking after that white jersey. Jakob Venter not going to make it to the 16:38.75 time. It's a good effort, though, from Jakob Venter. And what a great week that MTN Quebec have had in the break on a regular basis. And, of course, that great stage victory for Edvald Boasson Hagen. He just missed out on stage honours again in the Stage 4. First part of the action today. As we see off the start ramp and into his effort. his MTN Quebec teammate. That's Andreas Staff of Germany. We understand there's some good times coming in from the Astana squad. Daniil Fumenink, we're waiting for absolute full confirmation of that. The information's been a little bit parsimonious in terms of its delivery, and that is one sketchy turn, isn't it? You sort of think an out and back time trial with a 180 at the other end, well, it should be relatively straightforward, but they have to be particularly careful there.
Yeah, and I would have preferred it just to go straight around the cone and have a dead turn rather than going in through the car park and with all the potential carnage that can bring with it. Of course, for the cars, it's easy to turn around like that, but it could have used that for the cars and had them turn around and let the riders do the turn around a cone. That way is less chance of something going completely wrong.
So waiting to see it confirmed on our screens. We do believe that there's a new fastest time that these riders are chasing. Daniil Fumenink from Astana, 16 minutes and 15 seconds if that's confirmed. Well, it's whopping 23 seconds faster than the previous fastest time, which is still the one that's indicated on screen. So we won't absolutely certainly believe it at the moment. What about this from Brian Van Godem? He's just going to miss out on getting ahead of Kasper Asgreen. Stops the clock. Well, the clock didn't stop there, but my personal one stopped at about 16:40, so probably missing out by not much more than a second. The scene over what they call the Danish Riviera. And Lotto Soudal have work to do today and tomorrow. A lot of these riders from the team will be thinking more about just getting through this test and not so much about personal glory. Frederick Frisson, the camera is focusing on him, and he's into the aerodynamic tuck and pushing hard.
Yeah, he seems to be going relatively well, and it's all a short effort like this one is all about how you actually get going on the bike when you roll off the start ramp. Not going too crazy in the first couple of 100 meters. Excuse me, but really just building up the pace and getting up to a cruising speed very, very quickly. So most of these guys will be working to the power meter and making sure that they don't go into sort of too high in numbers over the first couple of minutes, and then really just settling down. It's one of those where you're gonna have to go. The effort should feel flat out, but at the same time have a fraction in reserve. So it's really quite difficult to time over such a short period of time.
So Frederick Frisson is pushing hard. What's he going to come up with? And coming in towards the finish, this is Valerio Agnoli, chasing that time of Kasper Asgreen. That's the one that's still indicated on the screen. We're getting some conflicting information. That 16:15 might be the time that he's really chasing, but either way, he's not going to beat either of them. Valerio Agnoli completes his 13.6 kilometer test, just over 18 minutes, so not troubling the scores. Nothing of great significance there. And there is the inevitable skyline shot of the Kronborg Castle. Dates from the 16th century. King Frederick II, father of King Christian IV. Put that little pile together, fair play to him. And lots of riders have their different different ways of preparing. Now gunning for the line. Is that Van Godem that has been chased down? The Team Rompot rider has been overhauled. This looks a bit like Alexander Camp finishing. And a fine effort. Clearly a good job to catch your Minuteman over just 13.6 kilometers. It's a short one. Here comes through to the line. Team Cult Energy have been in the action all week. Looks like Mads Pedersen has completed his test. And now through the halfway point, Frederick Friesson, and wouldn't it be nice to get some intermediate split times? Unfortunately, the information is very much in short supply. We're just relying on the information we have at the finish line. Looks like Frisson's going for this one, and of course you can't be too lackadaisical about it, even if it's not your primary objective for the week. You've got to get through the time trial. You've got to make sure you're inside the time limits. All these riders are going to have to make a significant effort. Yeah,
the time limit is usually about 25% of the winning time when you're doing a time trial. So you're still going to have to press on to actually make the time cut. But yeah, it's one of these where it's difficult if you're not a TT specialist and you know that you're not going to be up there challenging for stage honours, then or you have a GC to work with, then yeah, you just got to basically get yourself to the finish and see what you can do tomorrow instead.
Driving for the line, one of the riders from the Danish national squad. They have got Magnus Cort Nielsen, who's been in superb form this week. It's the penultimate stage time trial in the Tour of Denmark. And you're looking at Nikolaj Mulke-Steen of the Danish national squad, completing his 13.6 kilometer effort. He's given it as much as he possibly can over this flat course. It's been damp. Now it's a little less so. So we see Jarl Salomine, top Sport Vlaanderen rider. The young Belgian, tall, rangy figure. A little bit of that humpback look about him, but gets low over the bars. It's an effective style, and he's pumping the pedals with some facility at the moment. Going for those narrow hands. Seems to be different views about it, and then different fashions. They seem to come and go, whether the hands are wide or narrow.
Well, that different fashion depends on very much what the wind tunnel says on about that particular rider. Yes, some teams and obviously haven't got the resources to get into the wind tunnel, at which point it very much does tend to become a fashion as to how you set the bike up and what you do with it. Although nowadays a lot of the guys from the smaller teams just have a quick look at what the bigger guys are doing, someone of maybe the same type of stature from the bigger teams, how they set up their bikes, and then try and imitate that one and work with that. So we've got Mortensen coming in towards the finish here. He's usually a pretty good TT rider.
Yeah, and he's given it a lot, you can be sure about. He's pulling all sorts of faces and the head's moving around. Like 16 minutes and 55 seconds for him. The time they're chasing, 16 minutes and 38 is the information we have at the moment. Although we understand now that it is Fomik from Astana, 16 minutes and 15 seconds. With Mads Pedersen, 16:27, and Van Goghem of Team Rompot stopped the clock in 16 minutes and 40 seconds. So 16:15, the time they're chasing.
Roads are still looking like they're drying out for every minute that goes by. So I think by the time we're getting around to the last few riders on today's stage, you know, all these corners are probably going to be even better than what they are right now. and certainly with that's going to fill the riders with confidence for how fast they can take the corners, and I think the times will get better and better for every sort of 15-20 minutes that goes by here now.
Jarl Solomijn, the Belgian rider, 14 minutes and 12 seconds in arrears on general classification, so he's not a threat. He'll be thinking more perhaps about opportunities tomorrow. Will Top Sport Vlaanderen be in the break? I wouldn't be at all surprised. So far this week they've had some good results, specifically from Amaury Capio. And now we have the extraordinary tonsorial treatment. What an excellent moustache. One of the greatest moustaches in the history of time trialing, I think that is, from Rasmus Kruijt.
It's right up there, that one.
Yeah, and he's doing different things on the left and right hand side, which is pretty revolutionary. That's subversive stuff, isn't it? And he's not thinking about moustaches right now, is he? He looks like he's psyched for this one.
I think he very much is.
Team Colin Energy always make an impression. And no one less than Rasmus Kruijt. 8 minutes and 34 seconds back, but he'll be there or thereabouts in this time trial. Great opportunity for the local man. There's Kronberg Castle. And there's Andreas Stauff, German rider. 14 minutes and 12 seconds back on general classification. Just coming up this little bit of a drag and really feeling the effort, struggling to stay on that gear, but well, clearly he's not going quite as well as Scott Thwaite. Scott Thwaite's in the early break today and it hasn't taken anything out of his legs. He's charging along. Yeah,
it looked good this morning, and clearly was on fire then, and he's given this time trial a bit of a go as well. You know, the shorter efforts, they should suit Scott Thwaite quite well. And obviously there's a couple of technical corners as well right towards the back end of this one where he can make some time up, being a good crit rider.
Scott Thwaite on a charge. He's caught his minute man. And he is racing to glory potentially. Breaking the bubbles on the way through this 13.6 kilometer time trial. That represents stage 5 of the Tour of Denmark, the penultimate stage of this wonderful event. It's all to play for. We're waiting for the top 10 contenders a little bit later on. At the moment, the top 3, as we understand it, is Daniel Fomik from the Astana squad. 16 minutes and 15 seconds. That's the target. And he's got 12-second advantage on Mads Pedersen of Team Colt Energy. Brian van Godem stopped the clocks in 16 minutes and 40 seconds for Team Rompot. This is Team Rival, another one of the local teams, the continental level teams, Division 3. And nice effort, 17 minutes and 28 seconds. That's not going to be of significance. Andreas Stauff starting to close back up to Scott Thwaite. So Thwaite's absolutely charged past him, and suddenly, and as often happens when a rider is caught, suddenly he realizes that he actually could go a little bit faster than he was going. Not sure he'll be able to stay. Well, he can't go too close because even if he does close up, he'd have to go straight past or else drop back. So there's no sitting in the slipstream, of course. It'll be interesting to see whether that's a game of tag that's played between those riders.
Yeah, it's always quite annoying though if you do catch someone and they do come and sit in very tight behind you and you know, sometimes come back past you again. It's never something that I do. I certainly didn't enjoy as we got Ben Swift out on his TT ride here. For me, it was often a case of I always went very controlled up any climbs, any drags like that, then went very fast over the top of them, down the other side and on the flat. That was my real big thing in terms of TTing. So a lot of the time I'll call people on the flat, went into the climb, kept the same pressure, or if not a fraction less going up the hill, whereas they went completely crazy, really ripped up the climb, which meant they went past me again, and I come charging past them.
It's a yo-yo job, yeah.
And then they use my slipstream on the way down the hill and on the flat a bit, which meant, yeah, it's always a bit annoying.
A little bit irritating, but anyone who's ever ridden a time trial would understand that. Or anyone who's ever caught anyone in a time trial. Not everyone has. Mentioning no names. Ben Swift is pushing hard. Top 10 this morning. Just 9th in the sprint to the line. Into Frederik Svark. And he's in good form, isn't he? He's produced a great finish in Ride London just a few days ago. Clearly on good form, and hasn't quite come together in terms of getting the stage win, but tomorrow offers another opportunity for the Team Sky man. Wanty Group Gobert have Marco Marcato, remember, sitting 2nd overall. And that would be a big result for Wanty Group Gobert, as Van Lanshoek chasing the time now. It's updated on our screen. Fominik of Astana confirmed as the leader of this time trial. 16 minutes and 15 seconds. It's going to be a tough one to beat.
Yeah, I think it will be quite tough, but there's also an awful lot of very, very talented bike riders and TT specialists towards the back end of this start sheet. So there's a lot to be raced for, and not least this man here is actually a very good TT rider as well. So I'm thinking that he's actually going to be somewhere near the front end of the result list at the end of today. So this could be a time to keep an eye on.
Well, he's got the crowd clapping in unison. Clearly he's a local favourite, and he's pumped in a big way, is Rasmus Quad. And as you say, he is a very strong time trialist. And he fancies coming up with a result today. Who'd bet against it? The side over Kronborg Castle as they chase the time of Daniil Fominik of the Astana squad, 16 minutes and 15 seconds. We're on the Danish Riviera in the port of Helsingør, the ferry port. Mads Pedersen 2nd at the moment on the timesheet, 16 minutes and 27 seconds. Brian van Gotem has produced 16 minutes and 40 seconds. And we're hearing that there could well be another rider sitting in 3rd place behind Pedersen. The early pace setter, Kasper Askren from Team Cult Energy, has been pushed a little bit further back. There's the provisional stage classification. Well, Askren is sitting 3rd, we believe, a couple of seconds ahead of Brian van Gotem. Indeed, we saw that, didn't we? Van Gotem just over a second behind Kasper Askren. But it's Fominik who we didn't see across the line, but what an effort from him, from the Astana man. Mads Pedersen missing out on this occasion. What can Rasmus Quad and one or two of the other local heroes manage to come up with? "25 years of age now. And still developing as a rider, still developing as a tester. Michael Olsen, the Swedish rider for Team Trefor Blue Water, out and into his effort. Just 3 kilometers completed for him. And Olsen has the benefit of, well, he's actually facing into a little bit of a headwind on the way out. It's about 7-8 kilometers an hour, the headwind, and he'll have the best of that coming home. This is Daniil Fominik a little bit earlier. These recorded pictures. Finally, we've caught up with a sight. Nice bit of cornering too. A lot of riders have really struggled at that turn. Fominik has pretty much nailed together a perfect time trial, at least in terms of those that have completed their effort to this point. Will anybody be able to unseat him? 16 minutes and 15 seconds, plus a little bit of change. It's Asborn Craig Anderson, fine sprinter. What's he got in time trial terms? So Asbourne Craig Anderson has a top 3 finishing position from stage finishes so far this week. He's a great sprinter. His brother Soren is pretty strong in the finish as well. And both these riders surely destined for bigger things in terms of stepping up to bigger squads. They've been making a name for themselves in stage races in this part of the world over the last few years. And I think we're going to see these riders on World Tour teams before very long. He's managing to get all the way down the block and hang out of those big gears, and seems to be working it well. And the local team Rivals squad have also been very active this week. Now working our way down the order and looking forward to the top 10. Jay McCarthy sitting 10th, Edvald Boasson Hagen 9th, Troels Winter, Patrick Conrad, Gerald Cielek, Alexander Kamp, and then the top 4 with a great chance of victory today. And indeed this week is Matti Breschel, Rasmus Guldhammer, Chris Juul Jensen, Marco Marcato and Lars Bak. Those are the riders at the back end of the order that are finalising their preparations ahead of this stage 5 time trial. Michael Olsen for Team Trefor Blue Water, the Swedish rider. Eight minutes and 34 seconds in arrears on general classification. A large and appreciative crowd out along the course. And riders in a world of hurt, barely aware of what's happening left and right of them, just focusing entirely on that motorbike in front.
Well, it's the motorbike and your power numbers really. If you're riding to a power meter, otherwise you tend to ride to speed, just focusing on trying to hold on to that effort and not back off at any given point. It's just a question of focusing and making sure that you punish yourself all the way to the finish line.
This is Michael Olsen, who's through the halfway point on his 13.6 kilometre stage 5 time trial in the Tour of Denmark. Just one more stage remaining after this for the riders. They're 150 kilometres of circuit racing tomorrow. Well, it's not entirely circuit racing, but it does finish with a circuit that includes some significant climbs. Potential banana skin for whoever it is that emerges from this stage 5 time trial with the leader's yellow jersey to take it home. And will they take the final one? Remains to be seen. Plenty of marine life above and below water in this neck of the woods. That's pretty impressive stuff. How does it motor along without the sails?
That's a good question, that is. Magic.
Probably with the motor.
Magic.
So your current order in the stage 5 time trial. Daniel Fomenik of Team Astana has the lead. That's the time they're chasing, 16 minutes and 15 seconds. And the local hero Asbourne Craig Anderson, the Craig Anderson brothers, really making a name for themselves, and that's clearly a little bit of local knowledge. He's definitely been through this course, hasn't he, before? How many times will he have had a look at that today?
Well, it usually only takes ones to have a look at it, but decide exactly what you're doing and what's going to be the quickest way. So, you know, if I was doing a time trial like this and I knew there were some technical corners in the final, and over such a short period of time, you can actually save yourself a good couple of seconds going through these twisty, tight turns and getting the lines right. So it's worth just going out, having a go, seeing what feels right, what feels like you've got the most amount of flow through the corner, and that's it. That's all it takes. This one seems very difficult as well, though, really quite a tight one. I'm just looking at whether there's got to be a faster way through there.
Yeah, lots of cobbles, lots of footpaths, lots of opportunities for variety in terms of how they're engaging those corners. Lawrence de Vries is not going to trouble the time of Daniil Fomenich. Well, it was 17:15. It was revised there to 17:09, so there seems to be an air of mystery.
Well, we've been given 16:15, so it's gone back to 17:09 now. So
well, it's definitely not that, is it? So I think we'll rely on the 16:15. Certainly, it's difficult to rely on anything in terms of the information we've got from the screens at the moment, but not to worry, we'll persevere, as indeed will Pim Ligthart. Dutchman with Lotto Soudal. Ligthart sitting 5th overall in the mountains competition. He was up the road earlier in the week in one of the early breakaways, doing a solid job for Lotto Belisol, and he'll be asked to help out tomorrow if Lars Bak is still in the yellow jersey. Well, either way, he'll be asked to help out, I'm sure, but well, he'll have a different role.
I think tomorrow is going to be more of a case of actually working for Kenny de Haas for the finish, and with that, they're setting up Lars Bak as well for keeping the yellow jersey. And I think Lars will be the final lead-up man for Kenny de Haas, and in that way he's going to get himself inside the final 3 kilometers in a safe way. He's going to be on the front, pretty much going through the final corner, and that's how I would tell these guys to run things tomorrow. That's for sure.
So if we get the anticipated sprint finish, bunch finish tomorrow, it is a tough stage. It does have climbs, but as Magnus has told us, it tends to end up in a bunch sprint.
It's hard, but it's not super hard. So there's opportunities to attack, but you know, if you want it to be a bunch sprint, you can make it that.
Lars Bom is into his effort. He must be feeling a little bit disenchanted after yesterday's stage. Unfortunately, he's left isolated at a critical moment under the massive pressure put on the front by Tinkoff Saxo. Bit of wind out there, and suddenly he finds himself on his own, and ultimately lost out and lost his yellow jersey, so he's not going to win this year's Tour of Denmark. Jimmy Engelvand is going for it, isn't he? The Team Europcar rider in the break a couple of days ago. Knows how to come out with results from this level of race. And the Europcar racer, a veteran French rider, and pulled some interesting faces as he stops the clock in 16 minutes and 49 seconds. That's a pretty good effort. Not quite as good as the 16 minutes and 15 seconds recorded by Daniil Fomenich of the Astana squad. Michael Gogol, who was very active yesterday and well to the fore for much of the stage, is into his effort. 21-year-old from Austria. Ninth in the Austrian National Time Trial Championships, so capable of a good one, if not perhaps at the very top level in terms of time trial performances. Gogol has a couple of teammates in good position to step up the order. And how do Tinkoff Saxo play this now if they don't manage to get the lead from Lars Bak today? They're still very much in it. Do they go for the stage win courtesy of Matti Breschel tomorrow and just see what happens after that? Or do they try and play cards with Chris Juul Jensen sitting nicely and handily placed 3rd overall at the moment ahead of this time trial?
I think it's gonna very much come down to what happens this afternoon and what the time differences are. It could end up being a bit of a battle in terms of, you know, if Lars Bak has still got the jersey by only a second or two, it could be that Tinkoff Saxo try and do something and send the rider up the road and effectively, well, try and create a sprint opportunity for bonus seconds. So yeah, it's always an interesting one when you haven't got more than a few seconds to play with. So the battle is on today, and then we'll have to see what happens tomorrow with the rest.
Michael Valgren Andersen, the reigning champion of the Tour of Denmark. He's now 5 minutes and 9 seconds in arrears, so it's not going to be a title defence for him. Still opportunities to do a good job, and of course he has those 2 teammates handily placed at the moment.
Just getting a bit of information here as well that the wind is starting to pick up a fraction along the circuit.
So Michael Valgren Valgren Anderson to give him his full title. With those exceedingly long shoe covers. Shoe covers absolutely necessary today, I suppose they are. Strictly for aerodynamic purposes, that's...
Strictly for aerodynamic purposes, they are a massive gain.
But of course the rules say that you can't have anything that's strictly for aerodynamic purposes, so it's a little bit of a grey area there in the regulations, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's absolutely accepted practice, and I don't think anyone would be questioning Michael Valgren's use of them, and everyone else does.
Well, the funny thing is they completely banned them on the track, but on road racing, it's obviously still very much an accepted thing. And I guess you could always say, well, it's a bit damp over in the top end corner. I don't want to get my feet wet, so I'm going to wear them.
Get your toes a bit chilly. Yeah.
So yeah, they can't really argue with that one.
Little bit of a stretch, that one, but well, as we say, everyone else does it. It's not such a big issue, really, is it? Some people think they're even quite good looking. Not sure if I'd go that far. Magnus Cort Nielsen prepares to make his appearance. Great sprint performance from him this morning, finishing third on the stage with the Danish national squad, but of course a member of the Orica Green Edge squad in the World Tour. Looking a bit nervous, isn't he? Looking like he wishes this test was underway.
Well, I wouldn't say he's nervous. He's probably more keyed up to have a proper go at it. When you've been, you know, racing at such a high level for a long time, you know, he's although he's still very young, he's still a seasoned campaigner. Done many junior world championships, under 23 world championships. So with that, you know, you don't really get nervous. You get sort of
keyed up, yeah.
There's a certain amount of anticipation in you, but not really nerves. And nerves is something that's most of the time going to have a negative effect on you, whereas you know, the anticipation and getting G'd up like that, you can actually use it to as good energy.
Rasmus Quad with a slightly alternative run through that corner. He stayed on the main road part and then flicked to the left-hand footpath on the way out. And then he has that unusual style as he got back up to speed and got back on that monster gear. Didn't really move the bike left and right, did he? Just almost like a track start, the way he makes his way out of that corner.
Yeah, not necessarily the fastest through the corners either, but I guess it's all about how fast he's been riding out there on the road.
Well, team, well, we don't know, actually. We haven't got the intermediate splits, but clearly he's still pushing hard, so he probably doesn't know either. Maybe he feels it's one worth going for. 8 minutes and 34 seconds back, and he's pulling all sorts of faces. You can clearly see that he's trying to get everything out. Rasmus Quad, his moustache being forced back in the breeze that he's creating as he races to the line. Gets a big cheer. He's a popular figure, isn't he, in this part of the world. 16:29. It's a fabulous time from Rasmus Quad, and by my reckoning that puts him third on the timesheet behind Daniel Fominik of the Astana squad. Mads Pedersen, his teammate, just under 2 seconds better.
Yeah, so far the Cult Energy riders are having a really good go at this.
Certainly are. They'll be a little bit frustrated not to be on top spot because they've got two Danish riders sitting second and third at the moment. And it's Team Astana's Daniel Fominik. The 23-year-old from Kazakhstan who's at the top of the timesheets at the moment. Dennis van den Aert. Very smooth style. Almost knock-kneed, isn't he? But he really does keep the lower limbs well in. And he's got a very low frontal area. You can almost impossible to see his head. Dennis van den Aert of Team Lotto Belisol. Just 1 minute and 42 seconds down, so he's had a strong week. Been there or thereabouts without losing time all week. And of course he'll be looking forward to see how his teammate Lars Idingback can get on in the time trial a little bit later on. 27 years of age now is Van den Aert, the Belgian rider. And team rivals Jonasan Jorgensen coming close to the conclusion of his big effort. Got that much lower hand position on the bars that was very popular many years ago, a little less popular these days. But as Magnus has pointed out, depends on the what the wind tunnel tells you in terms of what suits you best. 16:59, break 70 minutes, good effort.
All right, here we go then. This is going to be an interesting ride. Kort Nielsen.
So Valgren Andersen on the way back and chasing his Minuteman. 52 kilometers an hour is a reasonable effort, isn't it, for Michael Valgren Andersen?
Getting caught for speeding on that one.
Yeah, and his teammate Michael Morkov, another local hero, is out into his effort as well. Pretty high cadence, relatively low gear. And charging along, bit of body movement there from Michael Morkov. He's a strong, strong rider.
On such a short effort, you need to try and sort of start with a high cadence and you know, work it from there really. If you start in too big a gear, you've got nothing to work with, and you tend to just run out of steam very, very quickly. So start high cadence and work with the gears.
Wow, what about that? Absolutely stunning time. We wait to see, is that confirmed? Edvald Boasson Hagen waiting with anxiety and trepidation. The Norwegian national time trial champion manages a smile. And I think that could have been Søren Kragh Andersen that came up with that time. We're going to wait for full confirmation, but if so, it is a whopping 15 seconds shaved off the best time to this point. No update so far, but Søren Kragh Andersen, if that is confirmed, the clock was continuing to move. Well, that is an excellent time. 16 minutes dead, I made it.
Yeah, I had the same on this one there, but I guess we'll have to wait confirmation on that one, because that is a good chunk of time that he's taken out of the previous best time in that case.
Yeah, we wait with bated breath to find out if that is, as we believe, Søren Kragh Andersen going to the top and setting a very, very impressive benchmark time. And that's been confirmed on our timing screens. Søren Kragh Andersen now the leader of the time trial. Who can better 16 minutes? Anyone in the 15 minutes is going to take the lead of this time trial.
I'd say yes. I think we're going to have someone taking a good 10 to 15 10 seconds out of that one.
Well, that's the bet. 15:50 is the tip, but who's going to do it? That's the real question.
I actually think that you're either going to have Boasson Hagen do that, or Lars Bak.
So Boasson Hagen and Lars Bak. Well, Boasson Hagen is the reigning time trial champion of Norway. Lars Bak is a former national time trial champion of Denmark, and here is the Norwegian individual time trial champion. He's also the champion of the road race, so he doesn't have to change his colors from skin suit to road jersey, because Edvald Boasson Hagen, and he owns it all at the moment. It's Mads Schmidt from Team Coloquick who's out there at the moment. Another Danish rider that's been very prominent throughout the week and gets a polite ripple of applause. Plenty of recognition for the local riders and massive appetite for this bike race in this part of the world. It's the 25th anniversary of the Post-Danmark Run, otherwise known as the Tour of Denmark. And Martin Gruen of Team Rival working his way towards the finish, back into the technical part of town. We're in Helsingør. And he's going to stop the clock just in time. He's going to hold off his Minuteman.
Well, His minute man is... I'm just trying to work this one out now.
Who's this driving for the line?
Valgren.
It's Valgren. What's the time? 16:21 they're showing. And that's a pretty good effort, which by my calculations would have him third on the timesheet. So at the moment we've got Søren Kragh Andersen at 16 minutes dead, Michael Valgren Andersen at 16:21, and in between those two, Daniil Fominik of the Astana squad. That's your top three at the moment. 16:15 for Fominik. And plenty of good times coming in from the local riders. Nothing but, you know, sometimes riders in stage races are wont to take it just that little bit easier if they're not in overall contention. Try and maybe save a little bit for the stage or stages to come. But I think in this instance we've got so many local riders that really want to test their ability and showcase their talents to the bigger teams and see what's possible. As Lars Bohm.
Well, this is a man that usually does very, very well in these shorter technical time trials. Somewhat of a specialist, I'd say.
13.6 kilometers is a very short time trial, and Lars Bohm is one of the most powerful riders in the world on a flat road. And Bohm is capable of coming up with a good one today, and I think he'd probably want to make amends for that difficult day yesterday. He did what he could. He was left isolated, and that the climb on the finishing circuit just didn't suit his particular talents, and it must have been a little bit disheartening, and he'll want to show that he's made of stern stuff today.
Well, there's a bit way of obviously coming back and trying to win the stage, but you know, it was a big disappointment, I think, for the whole Astana team yesterday, with Fuglsang hitting the ground as hard as he did, and obviously being taken out of contention. But nevertheless, it's one of these things you've got to deal with as a bike rider.
Well, Lars Bohm's back in there, and Fuglsang has retired from the race. Another rider that's retired is Jacques Janse van Rensburg. Unfortunately, he was involved in an accident in this morning's road stage. Having been so active in yesterday's stage, he actually took the lead of the most aggressive rider competition, which is a week-long competition that's judged each day, and points are awarded and accumulated. And unfortunately for Jacques Janse van Rensburg, he caught up in an accident today, broke his collarbone. He'll be out for a little while. A painful end to his Tour of Denmark. So MTN Quebec losing a rider, losing some strong legs for Edvald Boasson Hagen as he chases stage glory tomorrow. He's also chasing stage glory today, as indeed is this man, Lars Bohm of the Netherlands. So Lars Bohm into the last couple of hundred meters. The man from Astana, erstwhile race leader, back in the blue of Astana. He completes his effort. 16:33. It's a good time, but it's not good enough to unseat Søren Kragh Andersen, who's got a 15-second advantage on Daniil Fominik. And Asbjørn Kragh Andersen, the Andersen brothers, doing well. Edvald Boasson Hagen is chasing the time of Søren Kragh Andersen. 16 minutes dead. He's also looking potentially to vault up the order. Sitting 9th at the moment. And Edvald Boasson Hagen, as I say, the individual time trial champion of Norway. 8th in the Tour of Qatar individual time trial a little bit earlier on. And that is Matti Breschel of Tinkoff Saxo. Manages a smile, and why wouldn't he? He's won the last 2 stages. Can he make it a hat-trick?
Can he? Well, why not? He's certainly not bad on the time trial bike. But I think there's a few other guys here that really are going to put the pressure on him.
And the riders at the back end of the order making the preparation for their appearance. Rasmus Guldhammer there.
It's a man going well.
Boasson-Hagen is right down the bottom of the block, really churning a big gear, and looks like he's going well.
Well, I wouldn't say churning it. It's he's actually pedaling that one.
Right. Yeah. He's eating up the road, isn't he?
Yep.
Spinning the gear.
Well, certainly looking very, very smooth and powerful at the moment. We'll see what the time says when we get to that point.
So the man from MTN Quebec is the first of a 2-year deal with the African registered squad. And he's been rejuvenated, hasn't he, since he left Team Sky. It just didn't work out for him. Came with a big reputation and unfortunately wasn't really able to produce with any consistency the sort of performances that had led him to the Team Sky outfit.
Looks like Morkov coming in here now.
So Michael Morkov gunning it for the line to complete his time trial. And what's the time going to be for the Danish hero? 17:15. He's about 1 minute and 15 seconds off, so no significant performance in terms of troubling the scores, but he's through that effort, and he'll be thinking about setting something up tomorrow, or perhaps even taking his own chances. A few speed bumps along the way, but nothing to trouble Edvald Boasson-Hagen so far. Will he pick up his Minuteman? He's chasing Jay McCarthy, the Tinkoff Saxo man, who started 2 minutes in front of him, so it's not a Minuteman as such. There's 2 minutes between them, so into the top 10, and they separate them by 2 minutes. So the bottle is dispensed with. It wasn't there just for decoration and aerodynamic purposes, which is very often the case, isn't it, with the bottles, that they seem to be considered just there for aerodynamic reasons. Surprised to see him throw it away, really, wasn't it?
Well, they certainly can be, and some of the frames are actually built for the use of a bottle on the bike, and that particular bike is one of them. And actually most frames are faster with a bottle on the frame.
Yeah, it's interesting he threw that away. Maybe he wasn't thinking about it. They're just so much in the habit of dispensing with bidons when they're emptied, and there's not too many opportunities to take a drink. 15:45 looked like a pretty good time, but 16:47 looks more like what it really was. And for all that, it's not a bad effort either.
Actually,
Gerald Cialek now into his effort. Edvald Boasson-Hagen's teammate.
Nye meldinger, nye unge danske løbere, der træder i karakter. Og mens de gør det over på modsatte langside, ja, så har vi en af de lidt mere rutinerede. Og jeg sagde,
working our way down the order. Matti Breschel in fine sprinting form. What's he got in the time trial? The 30-year-old from Denmark, third year on the Tinkoff Saxo squad. So Matti Breschel with 13.6 kilometers facing him. And the time he's chasing, well, we understand that Mads Verst Schmidt could well have eclipsed the previous best time, and the new benchmark time looks like it's 15:45 for the Danish riders. So Danish riders really coming to the fore. They're always strong in the time trial, traditionally very strong. So Mads Verst puts in an amazing performance. 15:45, that's what Edvald Boasson-Hagen, Matti Breschel et al. Are chasing this evening in this second stage of the day.
So my prediction's just gone out the window then.
Forget 15:50. Yeah. What's it going to be? 15:40 more?
Well, it's definitely possible now. If we could take another 10 seconds off this before we finish with today's stage.
Scandinavian riders always strong in the time trial, aren't they?
They always have been, yeah. But there's a good scene of time trialing from a very young age up in Scandinavia. Certainly, maybe not quite as much in Denmark as it is in Sweden and Norway, but yeah, we tend to do a lot of it. Every weekend there's a road race and a time trial that usually being organised, as a two-day event.
Right. So road racing always, there's lots and lots of small stage races that contain a time trial
well,
too.
They're not actually set up as stage races. It's just a weekend of racing, 2 days, one road race, one time trial, individual. So not actually bringing the times together.
Right.
But obviously you're traveling to one place, you race both races, rather than driving halfway around the country chasing another road race somewhere.
I think I might give the time trial a miss. Is that okay? Is that
No,
allowed?
no. It's
Got to ride them both.
It's got to be done, and it's one of those things for young riders. It's an absolutely brilliant form of racing training. Everything is going to bring you on in leaps and bounds, and it's often forgotten and neglected as well in terms of the importance of it. Hence why, yes, we've got Guldhammer going out here now. No doubt he's going to want to impress as well here now, sitting up there in 4th place on general classification.
Just 38 seconds in arrears is Rasmus Guldhammer, so great opportunity for a massive result. 4th on GC in the Tour of Denmark back in 2009. Still just 26 years of age, and Guldhammer, he's been informed this year, 4th on GC in Tour de Fjords. Edvald Boasson Hagen's having a good year as well. A few wins under his belt, not least, of course, the Norwegian Individual Time Trial Championship. And Boasson Hagen looks to be going well, no intermediate times, but the time he's chasing is 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Time set by Schmidt of Denmark. Mads versus Schmidt. Magnus Cort Nielsen. Driving for the line, the man from Orica Greenage in the colours of the Danish national team. And listen to the cheers. He's a popular man in this part of the world. They see the national colours and they know it is the most prominent member of that team. Stops the clock 16:37. Not a bad effort, but almost a minute down on the lead as it's currently held. Team Colquick. The local Chris Juul Jensen sitting 3rd overall for Denmark. And listen to the cheer as he launches himself off the start ramp. It's the Danish national individual time trial champion. Clearly good against the watch. In fine form, he's been in the action all week.
Alexander Kampe was very, very impressive yesterday on the final circuit in Vejle. I thought he rode incredibly well, and I'm quite keen to see what he can actually produce on a time trial bike here.
Yeah, Kamp finishing 3rd on that occasion, behind Guldhammer and Breschel, leading the youth competition. He's in the white jersey, and in the blue jersey of leader of the points competition is Matti Breschel. He's got a 4-point advantage on Marco Marcato in the points competition. He'll be very, very satisfied with what's happened so far. Interesting cornering technique there, and well, Jay McCarthy is certainly going to hold off Edvald Boasson Hagen as he comes to the conclusion of this 13.6 kilometres. The Australian rider, prominent all week, and the pain and suffering is over for another day. Been a tough day for the riders with the a double stage. And he's cuts a lonely figure at the moment, doesn't he? Lars Bak, as he waits for his opportunity to head away in the time trial. Pretty much everyone else has disappeared at this point. Just waiting for Marco Marcato. And then it will be the final rider to start the time trial, Lars Bak of Lotto Soudal.
Just getting confirmation that Magnus Cort Nielsen has come into the finish there on 16:37, so not quite as good as we were potentially expecting from him.
So it's Mads versus Schmidt of Denmark and Team Colloquick that has the lead at the moment, 15 minutes and 45 seconds.
Bosenhagen's got a puncture. It's got a rear puncture.
Oh, problems for Edvald Bosenhagen. He's on a tubular, of course. He can ride that one through. He hasn't got the time to change it, but look at the way the bike is snaking around, and that's disappointment. 16 minutes and 18 seconds is a fine effort. How much time did that puncture cost him? Because I do believe that he could well have lost third place. At the moment, he's sitting fourth, according to our calculations. Matty Breschel well into his effort, and Magnus Backstedt is working away at the abacus, trying to figure out. But I think I have him fourth at the moment.
Yes, I believe so.
We won't commit to that at the moment. Still waiting for the official confirmation, but good effort from Edvald Bosenhagen to control that bike. Rear wheel puncture not coming. Well, would have been worse if it happened a bit earlier, but he was at least able to ride it through to the finish. So now the overall race leader, Lars Idingbank of Lotto Soudal, breathes out, controls his breathing ahead of this penultimate time trial, and this is the big rendezvous for the general classification contenders. Defending that narrow 3-second advantage. You can see Marco Marcato off the start line, but I can tell you the Wanty Group Gobert rider is into his effort. He's 2 minutes ahead of Lars back on the road. He's 3 seconds in arrears on general classification. It's a narrow advantage. 12 seconds is Lars Bach's lead over Tinkoff Saxo's Chris Juul Jensen. We'll pick him up on the road very shortly. He's 35 years of age now. 4th year with Lotto Soudal. And he's off and running. Listen to the cheer. The final rider in stage 5 of the Tour of Denmark. And the local crowd are really being treated to some fantastic performances by their heroes this week. Not least, of course, from Matty Breschel. 9 stage victories in his Tour of Denmark career to this point. He's not finished yet. Great opportunity again for him tomorrow. What about today?
Well, what about today? Obviously had a good stage this morning, but I don't know about the time trialing effort, whether he's got the legs or not. I think it's a pretty special the time that Schmidt has put down, and 15:45. That's going to take some doing to beat, and I'm just not sure whether Matty Breschel is actually up for that type of a time.
Yeah, well, he would have gone very, very deep to take that sprint victory today, and indeed yesterday, but particularly having done it this morning, to get the legs to fire again in the evening is difficult, isn't it?
Well, it is difficult, but it's something that these guys should be capable of doing. And yeah, it used to be a number of years back that we did quite a few sort of double stages where you had road stage in the morning and time trial in the afternoon, and you tend to sort of get into the swing of things and how you actually, you know, used it and dealt with it. Whereas now these guys are not. They get maybe 1 or 2 a year, if that. So yeah, bit of a sort of.
It's a different world, yeah.
Well, yeah, very, very different.
There was a time when Tour de France riders went on strike because there were so many split days. I think on some wasn't entirely unknown for the Tour de France to actually run 3 stages in one day as they maximised the income from stage finish towns, and eventually enough was enough as far as Bernardino and co were considered. So now it's a relatively rare event, and as you say, the current breed of professional not that used to making 2 big efforts on one day. Having said that, the powers of recovery of professional bike riders never ceases to amaze me. It just seems to be so routine for them to be able to go again and again, day after day.
Yeah, well, but you become accustomed to it, and you know, if it's you train for it, and with that, you know, when it's required, you just dig that little bit deeper, and a lot of the time it's not actually physically whether you're ready for it or not. It's what you mentally decide that you want to do. You know, cycling is, as far as I'm concerned anyway, as much about your mental attitude as it is about your physical fitness. These guys, most of them are just about equally as fit. Okay, there's some variations in terms of body weight and body shape and all the rest of it. It's got to decide whether they can go uphill fast enough or not, and whether they're a good sprinter or not. But at the end of the day, in general raw fitness, they're about the same. So it comes down to how much do you want to get out there, hurt yourself to produce a result.
Yeah, everybody's hurting.
Yeah.
Everybody's energy reserves tend to dwindle at more or less the same rate. So across a stage race, yeah, it's all about levels of motivation to a certain extent. So we pick up a side of the man currently in the hot seat. That's Mads Wirtz Schmidt. Straight onto Twitter and Facebook to tell the world while I'm leading. Took the under-23 Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago.
Well, I'm just getting some information here that Matti Breschel has gone past the intermediate time 30 seconds slower than Boasson Hagen did. So that's clearly not going very well. And same thing with Guldhammer. He's about 15 seconds down on Boasson Hagen.
So Rasmus Guldhammer, sitting 5th overall, is ahead of Matti Breschel on the road, but slower than Edvald Boasson Hagen. And we know that Edvald Boasson Hagen is in and finished, but sitting 3rd on the timesheets as best we understand it at the moment. Mads Wirtz Schmidt is the rider that's leading with that stunning time of 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Gerald Zielek making his way towards the finish. Currently 8th overall. 1 place in front of Edvald Boasson Hagen, 1 place behind him on the road as he races through to the finish. The man from MTN Quebec and Germany, winner of Milan-San Remo a couple of years ago, really launched the MTN squad. He announced their arrival on the big stage. 16 minutes and 54 seconds for Gerald Zielek. Workmanlike performance for a man who's capable of good results in short prologues over 3, 4, 5 kilometers, that kind of thing, but maybe 13.6 kilometers, just that little bit too far. Now Lars Bak, 35 years of age, the yellow jersey in his home race. Can he finally take the victory that he so desperately desires? And ahead of him on the road, the first sight we've got of Marco Marcato, who's been, well, to the fore all week, the Italian. Second at just 3 seconds.
I think he's going to be the one to lose out on this particular type of effort. Really not known for his time trialing ability. But, you know, when you're up there racing for general classification, things tend to change a little bit. You tend to be able to focus and push yourself that bit harder. But I just have a feeling that he's going to be the man out of the top sort of 4 or 5 that's going to suffer the most today.
Well, he's suffering now, and he knows he needs to suffer. He's going to hang on to that position. He's got an 9-second lead indeed over Chris Juul Jensen. On the left-hand side of screen, that's Chris Juul Jensen, the individual time trial champion of Denmark, who's really hanging out of a big gear. And Lars Bak looks like he's going at a similar rate, of course, different parts of the course.
Well, Juul Jensen's just gone through the intermediate time at 8 minutes and 7 seconds. So that's going to tell us a bit when we get into Lars Bak coming around that turning point as to how they're faring against each other.
So that's what Lars Bak's chasing. Oh, as just interesting variety of...
I can just say that Boasson Hagen went through that on 8 minutes and 11 seconds. So Juul Jensen 4 seconds quicker than Boasson Hagen. 4
seconds to the good, and Boasson Hagen, as we know, is just over half a minute slower than the man who leads this time trial. But we're concentrating really on the general classification contenders as they're starting to make their way across the finish line. That's Colaquic's Alexander Kamp. There's some interesting lines through the corners at the back end.
Well, the time seemed to have slowed down a little bit.
Chris Juul Jensen from Tinkoff Saxo. Good 10th place finish in the morning stage. Managed to stay at the front end of a little bit of a split. Mads Wirtz Schmidt leads from Søren Kragh Andersen. Daniel Fomenich it is that's sitting 3rd at the moment, just a few seconds ahead of Edvald Boasson Hagen. But it's Mads Wirtz Schmidt that has the lead at the moment. And who can unseat him? team from Almaborg, Bornholm rider. Sorry, Team Colquick rider, of course, the local continental level rider, as Lars Bak gets the cheers. Sort of anxious applause, isn't it, from the crowd at the side of the road. They're cheering him on to victory. They want to see, can he hang on?
Marcato's just gone through that intermediate time at 8 minutes and 33 seconds. So compare that to Juul Jensen that went through on 8:07.
So he's leaking time in a big way. 18 seconds traded.
So Juul Jensen has got himself up straight up into second place here on GC if he manages to hold on to this.
26 seconds even traded to Chris Juul Jensen. So Juul Jensen's certainly moving up into second place, it would appear. But can he overhaul the race leader? And he's not lacking for motivation, is he? He's a big, powerful rider. He's really announced himself in the last couple of years as Chris Juul Jensen. Interestingly enough, he's on his way to Orica Greenedge for the next 2 seasons. Just signed a contract, so he'll be leaving Tinkoff Saxo at the end of the year. Matti Breschel, his teammate, coming to the conclusion of his efforts, sitting 4th overall, the 30-year-old, with those 9 stage victories in his career in Tour of Denmark, 2 so far this week. Won't be a third, I don't think, this evening. 17:21 is over a minute down on the stage leader at the moment. Madsverts Schmidt. Across the speed bumps for Lars Bak.
That means that he's lost out to Alexander Kemp, Matti Breschel.
So Matti Breschel leaking a little bit of time at the moment, but doing a good job. Not sure if stage honours are on offer for Chris Juul Jensen. I don't think he's that concerned about that. His focus, his entire focus, is on a man that is further behind him. Total of 4 minutes behind him off the start ramp, and in between them is Marcato.
Well, Lars Bak went through that intermediate at 8 minutes and 21 seconds. So compare that with Juul Jensen, 8:07. We've got to remember then 12 seconds this morning, so Juul Jensen is effectively a virtual yellow leader right now.
So at the moment, 2-second advantage at the halfway point for Chris Juul Jensen. That is the narrow advantage, and still almost 7 kilometers of bike racing for Chris Juul Jensen to perhaps extend his advantage. Things looking good for the Tinkoff Saxo man. It's a good effort for Team Cult Energy's Rasmus Guldhammer, who's sitting 5th overall going into today's stage. Nice little bit of bike handling there by Chris Juul Jensen. He's been through this course. No surprise for him through that little S-bend. Hops it up over the curbs and immediately back into the drops. Not as quickly as possible anyway. And onto that big gear. The lights from the Tinkoff Saxo, and indeed the camera motorbike behind him, illuminating the way for the young Danish rider. 26 years of age, grew up in Ireland. And he's coming towards the conclusion of his effort. How much time has he managed to put into Lars Itting-Bak? Has Lars Bak saved a little bit for the second half of this course with the tailwind? Tailwind such as it is. Hardly a breath of wind. Perfect time trial conditions. And Chris Juul Jensen piles it on all the way to the finish, and he's out of the saddle. He's not going to get back in the saddle till he's crossed the line. You can see the pain etched on his face, but it's been worth it. 16 minutes dead, and by my reckoning that puts him into a share or something very close anyway. They're going to be separated by just fractions of a second, himself and Søren Kragh Andersen. So 15 seconds off the lead of the stage. Potential second place finish in the stage for Chris Juul Jensen, but of more importance to him, he's putting time into Lars Bak. Has Lars Bak saved anything for the second half?
Well, that's the big question. It's obviously difficult to wind up the speed on such a short effort, but you never know with someone like Lars Bak. He's, I mean, he's such a seasoned campaigner now. Then he will potentially be able to, if he hears that he's behind, he will be able to push himself, but how much? I think Juul Jensen has just done a really solid time on this particular course, and I think the wind has picked up a bit, hence why all of a sudden we've got some slightly slower times for these the top riders.
Yeah, slightly fluctuating conditions, but at least they got, well, of course the GC guys have had pretty much identical situations. So the time that Lars Bak is looking for to retain a lead over Chris Juul Jensen, always assuming that Marco Marcato is slipping out of contention, well, that's 16:12. We'll watch to see what the time is when Lars Bak completes his efforts. 16 minutes and 12 seconds. The next man we're going to see across the finish line very shortly will be Marco Marcato of Wanty Group Gobert. And he had a 3-second advantage on Chris Juul Jensen, so he needs to complete in 16:03. I don't think that's likely to happen. Mads Verts Schmidt doesn't show a lot of emotion. I think he can begin to start thinking about celebrating.
Well, I think he can do so. I don't think he believes it himself. So this will be a massive win for the young man.
Just 21 years of age, young Dane out of a big time trialing school I have in this neck of the woods. Lars Bak knows he's got to put on his biggest gear and really get that gear churning. It's effective, but look at the way his head and his shoulders are really rocking. The shorter the effort, well, often the less svelte or beautiful the position on the bike, because you've really got to just get the power into the pedals any which way.
Yeah, and Lars Bak rides with this particular way where he just turns over such a big gear all the time. It never really looks like he's traveling anywhere. It looks slow, but he's actually going quite fast.
So Marco Marcato sprints for the line. How much time has he managed to preserve? 16:03 if he's to hang on to second. That's the time that the Italian 31-year-old with Wanty Group Gobert needs as he charges for the line at the conclusion of 13.6 tough kilometers of time trialing. 17:02, more than a minute lost, so Marcato will slip well down the order. So just one rider left out on the course. It is the overall race leader heading into today's stage. Lars heading back with the more careful run through the little S-bend there. Relatively careful. He still takes to the footpath on the exit of the curve. And Lars Bak hanging out of the biggest gear that he possibly can, bigger than most. And Mads Verts Schmidt is starting to sign autographs. Well, he might.
Well, I think that was the autograph to say that, yes, I'm going to the doping control. Which is a good thing. Which is a very good thing.
Well, it's not the last autograph he'll sign today, that's for sure, yeah. So Mads Verts Schmidt of Team Colliquick. Surely nothing can prevent him from taking this.
Oh, he's got a puncture as well. He's got a puncture as well.
And it's absolute disaster for Lars Bak, and it's an interesting decision. Should he ride this one all the way to the line?
He should do. He definitely should do. He's just got one corner here, and that's the going across the curbs here. Oh, he's having to clip out. No, get on the bike. Get on your bike.
Should he have ridden that? Well, that is an interesting decision from Lars Bak. The bike comes off the roof of the car, and he's immediately on his way. But look at the time that's lost. It must be 15, 20 seconds or more for Lars Bak. And there was a little bit of decision-making as well. Bit of a delay as he had a little think about it. So Lars Bak looked as if he was losing his jersey. He's unclipped there as well. And he's got to get the foot back in. It's absolute disaster at the back end of his time trial, as we see two riders from the top 10 suffering punctures. Edvald Boasson Hagen deciding to persevere on that tubular right to the finish. Lars Bak takes a bike change, gets the applause and the support of the crowd, but it's well, it's sympathetic support. 16 minutes and 57 seconds. The dream is surely over of overall success in this race. Mads Verts Schmidt can celebrate, although it doesn't seem minded to, because he's taken victory in the Stage 5 time trial. Lars Iding-Bak will have to trade that yellow jersey for his Lotto Soudal outfit for tomorrow. And the leader of this race heading into the final stage is the Tinkoff Saxo rider Chris Juul Jensen of Denmark. Well, disaster for Lars Bak. I think, to be honest, he was probably, well, he was almost certainly on his way out of the jersey as it was anyway, and Chris Juul Jensen had done enough. So I don't think it made a difference in terms of his position, but he slipped quite a way back as a result of that.
Well, he obviously lost 15-20 seconds, maybe even a bit more than that. I seriously don't understand why he stopped. Such a good bike handler as him, he should have just gone through that corner and just kept the pressure on and gone all the way into the line. There wasn't really any more technical corners. He'd done the corner that he needed to negotiate, and after that it's just a question of just riding it. You know, yes, okay, it's an expensive wheel that he's riding, but I'm sure there's more of them in the back of the truck.
So Chris Juul Jensen can celebrate, can smile, but well, there's a job to be done tomorrow.
Fra start med det skal jo alle selvfølgelig, så for mig var det vigtigt at komme ind i en god rytme og så fokusere på det.
It's really important to get into a good rhythm.
Og så ja, kæmpe respekt til Mads.
So it's a real big respect to Mads, who's they really have done an amazing ride today.
At tabe etappen til Mads og slå Søren, så lidt det viser også hvor stort talent der er i Danmark.
Men når du nu vinder den gule trøje, så kan du godt leve med at tabe etappen, trods alt, hva'?
Ja, selvfølgelig.
Now that you got a yellow jersey, though, you can live with losing the stage. It goes. Yeah, it's obviously nice, but unfortunately, Lars had a bit of an issue there with a puncture.
Den gule trøje, men jeg vil også gerne have vundet den, uden at han har haft effekt selvfølgelig.
I would have obviously liked to have won it without Lars having the problems that he had, but you know, we'll have to take it as it is.
Ja, det er nu. Jeg er rigtig glad for, at jeg har et stærkt hold.
So obviously I've got a very strong team for tomorrow. So I hope we're going to keep working as we are and get to a good result tomorrow.
So Chris Juul Jensen, very magnanimous in victory, well, in second place, I should say, on stage, but that moves him into the overall race lead of the Tour of Denmark. Mads Vert Schmidt takes the stage victory by 15 seconds from our new yellow jersey, Chris Juul Jensen. Søren Kragh Andersen has to be satisfied with third, just fractions of a second behind his fellow countryman. Daniil Fominik from Kazakhstan, Astana, finishes fourth. Edvald Boasson Hagen time trialling well ahead of Michael Valgren. Asbjørn Kragh Andersen, the two brothers in the top 7. Patrick Conrad ahead of Mads Pedersen and Rasmus Quaid, and lots of Danish riders in that top 10. So Vert Schmidt takes the stage honours. Chris Juul Jensen with a very, very handy advantage now, and that really has turned GC upside down. He's going to have a healthy advantage heading into the final stage. Is there anyone to stop Chris Juul Jensen?
Well, I think it's going to be difficult with that one. The circuit tomorrow lends itself very well to some attacks and stuff, but with Tinkoff Saxo there being as strong as they are, I think they're going to struggle.
Skulle løbe med sejren her i dag. Havde du selv regnet med det?
What have you thought about this one?
Jeg har vist ikke, hvad jeg skal sige.
He said, I don't really even know what to say. It's
Ja, jeg har ikke så meget at sige.
Jeg betragtede dig inde i teltet, da du sad og ventede på de andre sider, og du virkede til at være fuldstændig op at køre over din sejr. Hvor stor en triumf er det her for dig?
How big a thing is this for you then? It's by far the biggest thing that I've ever won.
Det står alt med længder i det her selskab.
It's obviously with this kind of company, with all the professional bike riders.
Jeg slet ikke været mig selv endnu.
He said, I don't think I've understood myself just yet.
Jeg gør sgu bare alt, hvad jeg kunne hele vejen.
He said, I just went out and went as hard as I could all the way.
Kiggede på computeren og sørgede for, at den ikke lå under 55 km/t.
I looked down and was well over 50 kilometers an hour, so obviously I knew it was a good one. So, well.
It's the biggest win of his career. He'll celebrate it tonight. At last, he's able to break a smile, because Mads Vert Schmidt has taken the win. Stage victory going to Team Colquick and Mads Wirtz Schmidt. Great victory from Mads Wirtz Schmidt, and it's Chris Juul Jensen into the overall race lead in Tour of Denmark ahead of the final stage. So heading into tomorrow's 150-kilometer stage, we'll have that for you on Eurosport as we've been here all week. We're heading to Frederiksberg. 150k, as I say, is a finishing circuit that has a little bit of a bite in the tail. 14:30 CET. That's 13:30 if you're in Ireland and Britain. Tour of Poland concludes tomorrow as well. A crack of 25-kilometer individual time trial, and lots to race for there as well. Carlton and Magnus will take you through that from 17:30 CET or 16:30 if you're in British summertime. That's it from myself and Magnus for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Please do join us then. Goodbye.